Okay, we have the honor and the pleasure today. Yossi Stepansky will be the head
One
of
the gabbai.
Okay. It's a school. Judy.
Yom Tov, Shavua Tov, Chodesh Tov. I'll be talking English. If I grope for my words, my wife's madar will help me because she studied with Joy. She knows everything through Joy.
In English and Hebrew, Hebrew and
Yeah, we
English.
did half an hour English, half an hour Hebrew.
How often?
I still remember for 12 years I lived in America. I still remember. Okay. First of all, welcome to the Noam Shul. Not only today. Okay. We have a shul here. This is the Ezrat Nashim. The shul is here 70, 80 years.
Wow. For how long?
Not many know this.
70 or 80 years.
A little after 1948. Okay, I wasn't here, but Yaakov Yehuda, father of David Yehuda, was here for so many years. Yaakov Yehuda. You remember Yaakov Yehuda?
I remember the father, because this is the father
The father of David.
The father and the son was
The grandfather of Noam.
Right.
So what do you remember? You remember Yaakov?
No, I remember the father.
I remember Yaakov Yehuda, the grandfather, passed away, I think 1985, 1986. I like to say he's the founder of the shul.
Wow.
I'm not sure about that, but that's what I say. Yaakov Yehuda was an architect. He was also the engineer of Tzfat. In 1947, before the liberation of Tzfat, he lived here. But then they moved, and David Yehuda, the son, I think they went to Yerushalayim. David Yehuda, who I know, he was maybe a youngster, 16 years old, but he was part of Lehi already then, and the parents sent him out to Chutz La'aretz before he was caught by the British. And that's where he met Shoshana Yehuda in Philadelphia, but who was born in Yerushalayim. And only when David Yehuda was in a hostel in Yerushalayim did Shoshana found out that she was born in that hospital, in the French hospital right near the municipality. She found out only then that she was born there. The family was from Meir Shaolim. But she grew up in Philadelphia. So they met there. And they married there. And then they came back. I think in 1976, 1977. And they came to the shul here. And I remember the father, Yaakov Yehuda. Yaakov Yehuda is the architect who made the first scientific models, three-dimensional models of the Mishkan and the Beit HaMikdash. And if we go into the other room, there's the Perush Da'at Mikra, Sadar of Kuk. There are about between 30 and 40 illustrations of the Mishkan. Okay, not the Beit HaMikdash, but the Perush in the Torah. Okay, the commentary in the Torah, the Da'at Mikra, there are 30 to 40 illustrations of his on the Mishkan, and all the details of the Mishkan that we're reading now, the parashah. So if you want to, at the end, okay, you were learning in the Beit Medrash, so I couldn't go in. But afterward, if you want to, I'll go there and I'll show you the including Vayakel Kudeh. He has illustrations of the menorah. Okay, and he was very strong. He's a very strong, he knew a lot of things, and he made sure that we all knew the things. He was a very strong person, had a strong personality. And the illustrations that he did are in the Da'at Mikra. And then he built a three-dimensional model of the Beit HaMikdash. Okay, a picture of it is in the other room, in the study room. Okay, and
what happens to the original three-dimensional?
Okay, the original one went to the World's Fair in 1939 in Queens. Nobody remembers that. But a few years ago, somebody came here from America and told me, yes, he remembers it. 1939 Queens. Okay, You know where the World's Fair, Yerachmiel, it's a Kew Garden over there near the airport there. That's where okay.
My mother was.
So where is it? Part of it is still there because it was 1939. They couldn't bring it back to Israel because of the war. But they found parts of it in the home of the Yehuda home, which was emptied out a few months ago. So they found parts of it. Okay, I think parts of the Mishkan also. Dror Shmuelian took the Beit, whatever was left of the Beit HaMikdash. And besides that, about 2 weeks ago, I think 2 days before the election, right? 2 weeks ago, somebody from our Beit Knesset here, from a young guy, walked down here and right near the garbage, you know, the garbage right?
Yeah.
He sees this next to the garbage.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable.
Okay? And he picks it up and he takes it home.
Yeah.
And the next day, he comes to shul, and I'm with Yigal, we're going walking, and he comes out, walks on, and he starts talking to me. He says, you know, I found this matzati degel ba'ashpa. And I'm thinking, okay, come bring it to the shul, let's look at it. And he brought it here. And he put it there at the beginning. Then I moved it to there.
Right.
And then we moved it down to here. So we moved Tzfat. I'm looking at it. I recognize the handwriting. This is not from even though it's 1992 where he had computers. This is his handwriting.
Wow.
Okay? He had an artistic handwriting, David. And I remember this. I think I remember the person who did it. It was a new Russian immigrant. That was the early 90s, when many Russians came. And he wasn't a youngster then. And I think I just talked to Zohara. Zohara, the secretary, she's here 45 years.
Wow.
She thinks she remembers him also, the artist. But she thinks he passed away. He wasn't a youngster then, 1992. So I'm still looking for him. Maybe I asked some people. I asked. We have to ask, the Russians here. Is anybody here? I don't know from here.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to be here from then. Who made this? Actually, it says here.
I don't know, what is it?
It doesn't say his name, but it said it was made for the Merkazia Pedagogic, the pedagogic center for the teachers, which was above the Rabbanut, above Harav Shmuel Eliyahu's office. It was up here once, until it moved to Canaan. And so it was probably there, but I remember it from then.
You remember this from then?
Anyway, huh?
This is not the first time you're seeing this? You remember this?
No, I remember this, I think, from the Merkazia, up there, the second floor.
On Palmach?
Yeah, above the Rabbanut. Okay?
And you do know her.
I remember the person a little bit, because I was friendly with David. I used to come in all the time. I was busy mostly in Tveria. Then I was an archaeologist at Tveria. I was there a long time in Tveria. I used to go to Tveria and come back every day. Anyway, this probably for a day or two was in the rain. And the big rain that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that the rain damaged buildings. It's like an earthquake. Some of the buildings, like the Roscoe, the 2 apartment buildings in Roscoe, the high ones,
Right.
they fell down. Right, they're supposed to be here.
I hope that's
Okay,
not
but they're here, but they fell down. So there are buildings here that fell down. But I think the rain cleaned up this. It was very dusty. Now, how do I know that? Because the person who threw it out told me. He said it was very dusty. So he threw it out. But the rain, the rain cleaned it up. And I think this is more or less the topography, and the green is original. And there are still, it was made every build. I think it seems to me, I don't even in the Jewish quarter, it seems to me that every building was put up here by the artist. So, okay, now for youngsters, they don't go crazy over this because today we have 3D in the computer.
Yeah.
Okay, so architects, when they learn architecture, they don't make these models anymore. They used to. Even I made a little model. Remember, I'm not an architect, but in archaeology, we had a course in architecture. I went home and I made a little model of my office. That's all I did, and I struggled with it. So this is art. This is mamash, and I don't know. I hope the youngsters also appreciate it. So when I saw this, it has to be. It has to be repaired.
Stored.
It has to be repaired. Right, Judy? So what I'd like to do is, because in the Al-Sheikh Academy, I'm giving courses in the history of Tzfat. You can talk in the history of Tzfat for days and days, because we have a 4,000 year history. The history of Tzfat doesn't begin with the Arya. That's 4,000 years.
4,000 years, that's 2,000 BC.
Try 2000 BCE. We say BCE, before the Common Era. The Christians say BC. We say BC. Okay? Tzfat begins.
There's a couple of women that are always butting in.
And you see it from here. So that's the introduction for this. So first, I think I'm going to show you what's here, because not all of Tzfat is here. Okay, anybody living in Ramat Razim? No one living in Ramat Razim. No one comes from Ramat Razim. Ramat Razim is outside of the mountain. Oh, Yafeh, it's outside, so I can't show you your house. But the center of Tzfat, old Tzfat, you can see. But first, I'm going to show you maybe what we're looking at, and later you can get up and look for your houses, because each house is here, unless it fell down in the earthquake. Okay. The first is, of course, up here, which is the Mitzuda, the castle of Tzfat. And look how it's dominant over all of the other parts of ancient Tzfat, except for here. What's this? Canaan. Okay, the police station where the court was until it moved just now to here. Okay. Canaan, Har Canaan is a little higher than the Mitzuda. But the Mitzuda here is where Tzfat begins 4,000 years ago.
Wow.
Dafka here.
Usually, like castles with the highest points, like Buckingham was higher. Why was it not?
That's a good question. And we argue about this in conferences. And we have a question, Bechlal, why did Tzfat Bechlal become a city? It's not on the main road. It's not on Kvish Shesh. And when they build the railroad, when they're going to build it, once the Kiryat Shmona, it's not going to come up to Tzfat.
Yeah.
But we're going to stay in Tzfat anyway.
Amen.
Unless they do like they did in Yerushalayim, right? You go into Yerushalayim, you go up 200 meters in all the escalators. They're not going to do it for us. I don't think so. Okay, so that's a good question. Why did Tzfat, 600 years ago, Tzfat was the biggest city in all of Israel.
Wow.
Then it was called Palestine.
You're talking about
I say Israel.
What years are you talking?
About 600, 700 years ago in the Mamluk time. I'll be talking about that. Okay? So Tzfat it went from here along until the hospital, all this slope. The Tokar buildings. Okay, anybody live there? Tokar buildings. Okay, Yafeh. That was all. We did excavations here before they built the buildings. Okay? And so this is all built up. But not here. But you're asking a good question. It's higher up. You can see better. It snows here when it won't snow here. For the kids, it's great. Why? Okay.
But you can even see a mountain behind it that's higher, so why not?
Yeah, fair. Now, don't forget.
I heard from Yidnet was the original Tzfat, and where Binyamin Tzaddik is buried there.
Who told you that?
Her neighbor.
Not me.
I don't know where I heard it. I heard that Tana was buried there because 2,000 years ago.
Okay. Do you live in the building with Harav Zand, the Zand family?
No.
You live at the last one? Because the last one fell down.
I live on the
You live near Binyamin Tzaddik?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where's
We're not going to talk about the Kibbutz Tzaddikim, Binyamin Tzaddik and Gamzu. That's a whole lecture in itself.
Wow.
But for all I know,
It's really not there.
for all I know, the Rechov Lechomea Ghetto, that area, is not on part of the ancient Tzfat. Why? Now we're getting to your question. Good question. All this is hard rock. But here, the rock is soft. And that's why there are 1,000 cisterns in the old city.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, where's the water source for?
Yafet. Now, the second thing is, there's no, I'll tell you, the water source. Water, in my opinion, we have arguments about this in conferences. What's the most important criteria for an ancient site to crop up? Okay, I think water. Other people will say the road system. Okay, some people will say, is there agricultural land around? And all these things are all important criteria. I think water is the most important. Okay, now we have water where cisterns. Nachon, but what about springs?
Mayan Harudum, is that?
Okay, we have little springs below the citadel here. We also had, the Mayan Haradum, the sleepy thing. It was a spring once, mamash. We remember water. It was sleepy, but it was water. Now there's no water even now. After the rain, was there water? Okay. So there are little springs here, little springs. But now I'm going to tell you, since there's no big spring right here, let's say, that's why this mound is only 4,000 years old. Do you understand? Because the big ancient cities, Chatzor, Megiddo. Megiddo goes back thousands of years because of the source. You know the book, The Source? Okay, I read that 50 years ago, and it greatly influenced me.
So why do you become an architect?
Who was the author? Who's the author? The fan, not Leon Yoris, he wrote Exodus. James Mitchell. You have the book.
Yeah, I read it. It's great.
A very important book that influenced many of us many years ago. The source, the water in Megiddo, the Mayan, the spring, bringing the water into the ancient city, like in Megiddo, like in Chatzor, like in Beersheba. These three sites, the three ancient mounds, are all three international heritage sites. Okay? Tzfat is not an international heritage site. Akko is. Because Akko knows how to preserve their old city a little better than us. You all know Akko, right? You know Akko.
Yeah.
You walk around in Akko. Akko doesn't have a Jewish quarter. We do. And that's our viability. That's the best thing we have. Okay, the best preserved Jewish quarter in Israel. We have it by us. It's better preserved than Yerushalayim. We all love Yerushalayim. Okay, I lived in Yerushalayim for 10 years. We love Yerushalayim, but the Jewish quarter, ours, is best preserved in its original form.
Wow.
Better than Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is beautiful, but it's mostly reconstructed. By us, it's mostly original, right?
Meaning original buildings?
Yes.
Original
From when?
toilets.
But we,
Took it
okay,
out.
we'll
The
get to
last
wait.
year.
Don't forget, we had a number of earthquakes, not only the great earthquake. We had a number of earthquakes, so everything. But we'll get to that one day, maybe. Okay,
I have one question. You said there's 1,000 cisterns? under-
about 1,000.
Like, those are, you're talking about.
That's an estimate.
That was
It's not.
filled with water underneath ground. Is that what you're
Yes,
talking about?
not wells.
Right, I mean like holding walls.
Yeah,
like
fair. That's the definition of a cistern. To hold rainwater that goes in and it's collected. Okay. About 1,000.
But it's
Because don't
also-
forget, it's not only in the Jewish quarter, it's also in the artist quarter. And even not far from here. The old city begins here.
Yeah, yeah.
Joy has also, you have your cistern, of course.
It's
So-
covered over, yeah.
Professor Shiftiel, I've been working with him for 40 years. He estimates about 1,000 cisterns that haven't all been recorded yet. But almost in every yard, at least, in the Jewish quarter, you have the yards, like you have a yard and some buildings around it. You have at least one and probably more than one cistern. Okay? There are a few wells, very few, but
We have
The-
one in our living room and one in our there, but the
How about
people
a
who
cistern?
were there, a cistern, but the people who lived there before us told us that they were covered over by the time we bought it.
okay, so you have more than one.
Yeah,
Okay, so there should be around 1,000. Okay, now what I want to do first is to show you what we're looking at. Okay, so we have the higher area, which is higher Canaan, where the police is. The police is still there. Okay, the court moved to here, and the Canaan neighborhood built up in the 1950s. Okay, each building here. I don't know if you see it. Each building is here. What fell down? Chabad.
that
Fell
was 2
down.
weeks ago.
It's not here. It was here. You have to make a big building here. So this is higher up, and further up is Mount Canaan, which reaches 900 meters. Mount Canaan and the army base. You all know why they're sending us rockets.
Yeah. It's in
Okay.
the Northern Command.
Because of the Northern Command. Okay? It's no secret, they know it. Hezbollah, they know. Okay. So that's further up. Not many people know. I gave a few lectures to Pikuda Oref. Okay, Pikuda Oref, Pikuda Oref.
Yeah.
The home command.
Northern Command.
Okay, they're still here. I think they're still here, right?
Yeah.
It was very interesting. At the beginning of the war, there came a whole battalion of them, of Miluimnikim, of not youngsters. So I gave them a lecture. I didn't have this. If I would have had this, would have been much easier. So instead we just put a shkufi. So I said, the problem is, if I show you this, it's nice, right? It's an aerial view from the side, but it doesn't show the topography. You see? And this is even worse. I can show you an aerial view of key, vertical. Okay, but you don't see the differences in elevation. For Pikuda Oref, it's very important. And I told them something that they were amazed to hear. They're supposed to know Tzfat. Okay, so I told them something that they were amazed to hear. That everybody is amazed. You'll be amazed.
Yeah.
Tzfat has the biggest elevation differences. Here, 900 meters, and it goes down to Akbala. No one in Israel knows that Akbala is part of Tzfat.
Yeah.
But you know.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Right, underneath the rest.
Okay. No,
We don't know that, but we feel that.
so it's the most beautiful neighborhood in Tzfat is in Akbala.
Beautiful. We passed by in the bus. Beautiful.
Okay, but Akbala also has an ancient site with an ancient synagogue, and we moved them from there to where they are now. So Akbala is also an ancient site, And Akbara is a place where Rabbi Yanai was. Okay, the whole in itself, the history of Akbara. Okay, and we used to go on Tiulim. We went there on Tiulim to Akbara, and I can still show you where I think the ancient Beit Knesset, the ancient synagogue, is in Akbara. But Akbara is down here. It's only 350 meters above sea level. So Tzfat goes from 350 meters to 900 meters. There's no other city in Israel that goes from down up there. When we go down to Tveria, we go down a kilometer. We go below sea level. Okay, we need a snorkel. We go underneath. That Tveria, is more than 200 meters below sea level. Okay, the Dead Sea is 400 meters below sea level.
Wow.
So, but Tzfat itself, from up here down to here. Okay, so you can see it, and this shows a part of it at least, the downhill towards the Kinneret that begins here. So Canaan is the highest point in this area. Okay, and the name Canaan is also very interesting. That's a whole lecture in itself. Well, about the names of Tzfat and Canaan. Why do we have that name here, Canaan? Canaan is the ancient name of the land of Israel.
Yeah.
So Anachnu Zachinu. Okay, we got that ancient name right here by us. How did that happen? That's also a good question. But let's get back to here. So this area in Canaan. In Canaan. But here, underneath here. It should be here. It may have probably fell down. I'm sure he put it here. But you know, where was the main water play in the 1950s and early 60s? Where did they store the water? In the Mitsuda,
Wow.
in what we call the Echo Cave.
No way.
This town, I don't know. That's I don't know who, but that's our name. The Echo Cave is the biggest cistern in Tzfat.
Wow.
Okay, and one of the oldest in all of Israel,
Wow.
from about 1270 CE. It's 750 years old, intact. Okay, so that's here.
So can you go to the Echo Cave?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, it's super fun.
Now I'm pretty angry at the last mayor because we told him all the time, clean it up, clean it up. It doesn't cost a lot of money to clean it up.
Yeah.
And he didn't listen to us so much. He made beautiful. I'm not in politics. I have nothing to do with politics. I'm not going to even tell you who I voted. Even Smadar doesn't know. But all the kikarot, always good job. For tourism, less. And it should be cleaned up. Okay, I go there all the time with tourists.
Yeah.
Okay, for children, the best thing that can be done for children, I take from Joy, I take the tourists.
Yeah.
They like the best thing for the children going into the cave. Here. Okay. So this is ancient Tzfat. It began 4,000 years ago. People started living here 4,000 years ago. About, I would say, 4,200 years ago, 4,200 years ago. And for instance, you see this picture.
What is it?
Of bronze weapons of people living here. Where did we find this? Okay. We found this in a burial cave here, right opposite the entrance to the high school, to the religious high school, where Smadar worked for 40 years. She's still there. And right opposite then in 1986, they were digging a sewage thing along the road, and they opened up the cave and we excavated it. And we found these and other things. Okay, the earliest of the weapons is from about 4,200 years ago, and the bronze, not dagger, spearhead that was found later came from this cave also.
Where about exactly?
Why? What?
Where exactly?
Right today, there's a Givat Shoshana building on it, but we excavated it, and today you can see some of it in the Israel Museum, and some others in the Eretz Yisrael Museum in Ramat Aviv. Okay, now I'm assuming that if the burial cave was here, okay, if they're here, then these people were living here. We assumed that then. But in the end, I also found pottery from that time in this area of the Mitzuda also. So I'm pretty sure that the people who were buried here lived here.
יוסי, מה זה פארי?
מה זה?
כלי חרס? בסדר.
לא הבנתי מה אמרת.
קיבלתי.
Okay, so these people lived here. Who were these people? We're talking about people, a time about 200-300 years before Avraham Avinu. These were the Canaanites. Okay? And the Canaanites were here for many years, for about 1,000 years. Before who comes? The children of Israel come. So who came to settle down here? Do you know? I'll take it.
Oh, yeah, Naphtali. Yeah.
If you take Gematria, Tzfat, Naphtali,
Same.
Gematria, 570. 570 is a lot of Gematria. It's also Ra'ash. Ra'ash is not only noise, also earthquake.
Oh.
But it's also Sha'al, a gate to heaven. Okay, there are many, many Gematriot But you can dream of gematria. We in Tzfat, we dream gematria. So that's when Tzfat begins. And what happened was that about 800, 900 years ago, the Crusaders came. Sometimes I say the Crusaders, Yimach Shema, for what they did in Europe on the way to here. Okay, that's why we say Aval HaChamim in our shul. The Sfaradim not so much, but that we say Aval HaChamim, except on Rosh Chodesh, we say Aval HaChamim in memory of what the Crusaders did, the slaughtering that they did in the 4 cities in Germany along the Rhine River. And I was there, Magenza, Worms, Ramaiza, maybe some of you have been there. Okay. So the Crusaders, when they came, they probably leveled this mound and they pushed all the earth down. And then they built their castle, okay, which looked like this.
Whoa. How do you know that?
When I go on tours at the castle, I show this, but I explain. This is a picture of another castle, a twin castle from northern Syria. They built something very similar here. But okay, about in the 12th century and especially in 1240. 1240, they built this on here and we excavated and we found the remains. You can go there, you see the remains.
All those sites buildings systematically excavated by the
No, not all of it. Okay. So what I think is that the Crusaders came and they leveled the mound and they didn't have tractors then. So they had 1,000 slaves. Who were the slaves? The Muslims, slaves, or Christians who didn't belong to the Templar order or whatever. The local Christians also, they were second grade. So they worked and they pushed down the earth to here. So one day, Machon Alta, you know Machon Alta? Machon Alta, we want to build beyond Machon Alta. And so I came and I made an excavation behind and I excavated into the slope here. And when I dug into the slope, I found part of the dump of the Crusaders that they pushed down the slope. Okay? So I didn't find any big buildings, no ancient synagogues, no, but I found something very, very important. And that is, I found all these pieces of pottery. Okay? And you can find them even walking around there today. Okay? I don't know if they're Chabadnik or they're Chabad. There's Rabbi David Rothschild. Know him and somebody knows him? He walks around all the time and he finds pieces of pottery. He shows me. Okay? And he picks up pottery from the Canaanite times, from the Israelite times. He picks them up. He walks around and picks up pottery from the ground. Just like these pieces of pottery. You have to do is find the pottery and you have to draw them. They're sent to Yerushalayim and they're drawn by artists. All the artists that draw pottery, they're all Russian Jews, ladies that are experts. All of them. Lo yuman. They all know exactly their thing.
Wow.
They know exactly, they're all like, okay. And they draw the pottery and I publish it. And I show how we have pottery from 4,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. So my theory is the Crusaders leveled and they pushed down the dirt. And when you go into the dirt, you find the pottery that was once here up here. That's how we know how old Tzfat is. Okay. How much time do I have? Okay. Now, the Mitsuda,
Nobody's in a hurry.
then, is the ancient part of Tzfat, the nucleus of old Tzfat. And after the Canaanites left, I guess they left. I have no proof that they left. But in any case, at about 1200 BCE, 1100 BCE, the pottery becomes different. Okay, and that's not only here in Tzfat, but it's all over the land of Israel. Yehuda v'Shomron, all over. You find the pottery, it's different. Okay, the cooking pots, especially. We call them CPs. If you see it, CP, that's cooking pot. The cooking pots are different, especially the lid. The way they made the lid, it's different. And we think that these cooking pots are made by people who came in and settled down. So who is that? Naphtali. People of Naphtali. They started settling down. And I found here, David Rothschild, every time he picks up, comes to me and says, look, Naphtali. He gives a cooking pot of somebody from Naphtali.
What year is that?
What?
What year was that?
About 1200 or 1100 BC.
But where do you go finding these pieces of?
She's also not
I'm
ready.
a beachcomber, so I want to go.
Just walk around with your eyes closed.
Right.
First of all, best to do it
After a storm.
in the autumn. After the first rain, you can find also coins, but you're not allowed to pick up the coins. Once you pick up, okay, right here, right underneath here along the road, Eli Minov, from Tzfat, Aviva Minov's husband.
Yeah.
He once found a coin of Alexander Yanai, the Hashmona'i king. Okay, and I didn't need that for proof, but that's proof that the Hashmona'im were. Okay, we'll get to them. So you can find these things, especially after the first rain, but also by the Tokar buildings. Okay, in the slope. Okay, you can find pot, and we did excavations there. Okay, but there in the excavations there, all that we find remains from the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th centuries. That's when Tzfat became the biggest city in Israel.
When you put down the top.
Because let's say in the year 1400 CE, the Crusaders were kicked out already. The Mamluks were here. They made Tzfat the center of all the Galil and Lebanon. So that's when Tzfat started from here, and the Jewish quarter also was here, and went all along the slope here until almost the hospital.
So you see along Carolina South, like there's some deep stuff like along above Carolina
course.
South, right? When the rains fall, that tons
Above
of
Carolina South,
right?
the old mosque, okay, the red mosque, we call it the Red Khan.
Yeah.
But that's Baba Mises. It's not a Khan, it's a mosque. Okay? That mosque has an inscription from 1279, I think. An inscription in Arabic from 1279. Okay? So during that time, all this area, including the Mitzuda, and this slope was built up. Why not up here? Because the rock is hard, it's hard to carve. That's what I think. And also less water here. There's more water here. And you know what? The view here is better. This way, the view is better.
It's the warm side.
It's nice, beautiful view.
West facing.
It's the warm side of the hill. It's the wet side and it's the warm side.
It's the west side. That's where the Shekhinah is also. That's Hashchina b'Ma'arav. That's already the Jewish spiritual that we can see from here, Miron and Rashbi. We can also see the missiles falling down.
Yossi, what about the
Havdi.
archaeological point, like halakhically, like Tzfat was like Safek, whether it's a wall city or not? What about archaeologically? What's
So,
the evidence that it was on?
okay, since now it's Purim coming up,
Exactly.
Yeah.
so that's a long debated, from hundreds of years, they're debating that question. When Arav Shmuel Eliyahu came to Tzfat, I think about 30 years ago, and he started making a revolution. You know, because of him, for instance, most of us go with the Kohanim because of him. Reuven comes and he's the Kohen and he gives the bracha. But you know, the Hasidim of Tzfat, the old Tzans, Ari Ashkenazi, short, they don't do Birkat Kohanim. Okay? But there's no reason why we shouldn't do it. it's such an important mitzvah, midoraita. And so Rav Shmuel Eliyahu said, even though I'm a Sfaradi, okay, but his wife is Ashkenazi. She's from Beit Knesset, he's Ashkenazi. But he is a Sfaradi, son of Rav Mordechai Eliyahu. So he had, and then we had an Ashkenazi rabbi. We had Rav Kaplan, and then Rav Yisritsky, Zatzal, okay? But he had the guts to get up and say, wait a minute, why shouldn't we be doing this mitzvah midoraita of Birkat Kohanim? And also about reading the Megillah. So we had a consortium. We sat in his house, and I said, what I say since then until now. What I say is, Tzfat was here during the time of Yoshua ben Nun. Okay? But was it a walled city in the time of Yoshua ben Nun? Ir mukefet choma. It has to be a walled city, okay, for it to be under the headline of reading the Megillah on the 15th. You all know that the only city where you read only in the 15th is Yerushalayim, okay? But the question is, what about many other cities where you should read both? But it's not so easy reading the Megillah on both days. Lo pashut. And that's what I say also, because if we go to Ayelet HaShachar is on Tel Chatzor.
Really?
And Chatzor is certainly wall. You can see the wall from the time before Yoshua. Ayelet HaShachar has a Beit Knesset. They used to have tefillah there every Shabbat. The old kibbutznikim, I remember. We went there for Shabbat once. There was a minyan every Shabbat. You know, in the old kibbutzim, they used to have minyanim even every day. Not the Shomer HaTzair ones, but yeah, some kibbutzim had. I'm not talking about the religious kibbutzim. And
Chatzor reads Megillah on what day?
In Chatzor, they read Megillah both days. I don't know. They're 3-4 kilometers away from Chatzor. Chatzor Gilili. I'm talking about Tel Chatzor,
which is now
ancient Chatzor, of course. Sorry, Chatzor Gilili is not on ancient Chatzor. Ancient Chatzor is 3 kilometers to the north, where Kibbutz Ayelet HaShachar is.
We want you to take us there.
Huh?
To Tel Chatzor.
Tel Chatzor. Okay, so if you happen to be at Tel and sleep over at Tel Chatzor, then you have to do it both days. If you ask me, only the 15th. You can see the wall there. Okay, but I think it's best to give the respect, the kavod to Yerushalayim, and then he'd have the kavod of being the only one where you read only on Tetvav. You don't have to go look for all the others. You're dali. In any case, Rav Shmuel Eliyahu heard from me that Tzfat is here, at least in the time of Yoshua. But I told him we haven't found the wall, and I'm not sure. We have no proof of a wall. In fact, people ask me, there's no proof of any wall around Tzfat in any century, in any time in the history of Tzfat.
So didn't all cities have walls?
You're right. And that's a question. We don't know why there was no wall. And the answer is probably because, first of all, it's hard to build a wall here.
Yeah.
Okay, it's easier in Tveria. And I guess either they didn't have the money to build a wall around this whole, let's say the Mamluks. They didn't have the money, or what I think is, after during the time of the Mamluks, they didn't have the Crusaders threatening them. It was more or less a peaceful, relatively peaceful time.
The Mamluks were Muslims?
Of course, Muslims were Muslims from Egypt. Okay, so anyway, the Israelites come here and they settle down, the Naphtali people. Okay, and when I go there with tourists or whatever, so I start talking, who are we? We're in Tzfat now. So sometimes we say, we were here 3,000 years ago. But I don't know, maybe the Ethiopians were here because they're from Shevet Dan. So they were here, which is not far from us, Dan, you know. The Naphtali people we haven't found. We have Menashe. We have the beautiful Menashe people there in Tzfat. But we don't have, no one has found the Naphtali people yet. in India and Pakistan, I don't know where. We haven't found them yet. They were here. And they were here from about, let's say, 1100 BCE until 733 BCE. When the Assyrians came, Tiglath-Pileser, and took them away, what's called Ashur, the exile of Assyria. So we, most of us at least, I think, we're not descendants of Naphtali, right? I guess not. We're, most of us, descendants of other tribes, mostly Yehuda, but not only, Dan and Menashe also. Well, most of us are, from Europe at least, is Yehuda. Binyamin was part of Yehuda. And these other tribes in the north got lost.
But I have heard that people from all the tribes were living in the area of Yehuda. People weren't exclusively living in their tribal area. Like we've been learning in Shoftim, right?
Not only
From Har Ephraim, they're
okay, not only
so that
Shevet.
they weren't all lost.
Okay, not only Shevet Levi. Okay,
Right.
that's a good. I don't know. It's hard to prove that, right? But Shevet Levi is all over.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it even says in Shoftim
And
that
that's why-
done before they went up north, they were living in Yehuda.
Nachon. So
Was it one of the cities was Tzfat? Was one of the cities,
okay, now you're talking something else. Now you're adding something interesting. Femo. Anyway, the Israelites were here, and they were here for hundreds of years. And then we were I'm saying we, Tzfat was part of the northern Israelite kingdom, not the Judaic kingdom. So that's why these people weren't Jews. I'm talking now semantically. A Jew is Yehudi. So they weren't Yehudim. They were Israelites. The Jews, the Judaites, were in Judah, Yehuda. So these people, who was the king? Who was their king? Achav.
Yeah.
And who was their queen?
Isabel.
I like to say Zevel. Izebel.
Izebel.
That's right. Who lost her life in Israel, in Emek Israel. So we were under their kingdom. I'm saying people then in Tzfat. But they left in 733. Tiglath-Pileser. They what?
They weren't in Tzfat.
Who? The Israelites?
Now,
Now, until 733, Israelite. They left, by the way, 10 years later, Samaria fell, Shomron. Shomron was the capital. Sebastian, Shomron, in the middle of Shomron. Okay, the winter palace was Yisrael, in the valley of Jezreel. That was the winter palace of Achav and Izebel and the others. Okay, and Tzfat were to the north. Chatzor was a very important site for them. And in my surveys, I found about 25 more Israelite sites that the next generation may excavate one day. Down here, down below in the Colosseum area, like 25 more Israelite sites. And Gush Chalav and Meron and Rosh Pina. Rosh Pina is also an ancient mound with an Israelite level.
Wow.
Okay, so that's something that we in Tzfat people don't understand. I'm hoping that the new people in the municipality today of Tzfat, including the mayor, whose wife is a distant cousin of mine.
Wow.
Okay, and she's from the Hasidic family. My mother's family is here 230 years. My mother's side. Okay, and the new mayor's wife is from the Galis family. They're Hasidim. Here 200 years. Tveria of Tzfat. Okay, I read. I didn't know. Okay? I don't know the mayor. He said no one knows him, but he lived here for a few years.
Yeah.
And his wife is from Tzfat.
But there's Sephardi Ashkenazi, where did they, his family, his wife's family,
Yeah,
where did they originally come from?
in Europe,
They came from Europe.
Eastern
she's
Europe,
asking us.
Hasidim.
Uh-huh.
The story of the Hasidim of Tzfat. Okay, from 1777. Actually, in the 1760s, there were already Hasidim here in Tzfat. The Baal Shem Tov passed away in 1760. You know, his brother-in-law was here in Israel.
Yeah.
Before he passed away, there were some Hasidim that came to Eretz Yisrael by themselves
Yeah.
already in the 1760s. Tveria, I used to say all the time, I wrote my book that I wrote on the Ashkenazi, Ari Ashkenazi, that the Ari Ashkenazi shul here in Tzfat is the first Hasidic shul in Eretz Yisrael.
Wow.
I still brag that. When I go to Tveria, I'm starting to say that in Tveria, they had probably a Hasidic minyan already in the 70s, 60s, with about 10, 20 Hasidim. They had already, what do we mean a Hasidic minyan? Nusach ha'ari. If you daven Nusach ha'ari, that's it, you're Hasid. That's Nusach ha'ari of Tzfat, Ari, okay? Hasidim daven Nusach ha'ari. Why do Hasidim daven Nusach ha'ari, which is like Sfar, we call it Sfar, right? Why? That's enough. But in Tveria, they had a minyan probably before Tzfat. So I have to correct my book. But that's something I gave a lecture on that in the summer. In Tveria, and okay. They don't know this in Tveria. Okay, shall I stop here or one more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you want, I'll continue some other time because at least you should understand ancient Tzfat is here, and we have to talk about once about all this, the new part, which is also interesting. What happened to Tzfat after 1948 is also very interesting, and no one has written on it. How Tzfat developed as a development town, okay, with all the olim that came in the 1950s. You know what was here? I don't remember. I wasn't here, but here was the soccer field in the 1950s and 1960s. Right, this whole area.
Where are you going?
All this. Yigal Allon was only built in the late 80s.
You mean the parking lot?
But the soccer field, now the soccer field, you can see it here.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's also interesting that the hospital was built, of course. Where was the old hospital? Okay, the Rothschild Hospital, where the Michlala is today. So there are a lot of things, interesting things to talk about also. But at least this, we should know how old Tzfat is, how old Tzfat really is, and what happened here, and the history goes on and on even after. One more thing I want to show you before we leave. One more thing I brought it special, and that is we didn't talk about the Miklat. Who mentioned the Miklat? Okay, the city of refuge. Rabbis say Tzfat was one of the cities of refuge, but it wasn't Kedesh. There were six cities of refuge. The one, this area is Kedesh. That's near Kibbutz Yiftach. No one goes there. It's on the border with Lebanon. But we certainly could have been one of the 48 cities of the Leviim, which also worked as cities of refuge. Okay? And maybe we were Kartan. Kartan is one of the cities of the Leviim in the tribe of Naphtali. So it could be, but we don't have proof. But one last thing that's very exciting, at least in my. I look at the Metzuda, I remember 1,500 years ago, there were Jews living here in the time of the Talmud. Tzfat is mentioned once in the Talmud Yerushalmi. It's mentioned hundreds of times. Tveria is mentioned hundreds of times in the Talmud. We were a small village, but we were here.
It's mentioned in the Mishnah.
But also, during that time, in Tzfat, we had the Kohanim, the priests. Okay? And Ruve knows this well. We had the Kohanim of Tzfat, very one of the 24 priestly families living in Tzfat, the Kemu Fashchu. This list of 24 villages with 24 priestly families, okay, was found in archaeology in a number of places, parts of the list. But the longest list of all, and the oldest archaeological proof of where Tzfat is written, the oldest, let's say, epigraphic proof of when Tzfat is written in an ancient stone is from 1,500 years ago. Where is that stone, this stone here? It's on a pillar in Teiman, in Yemen.
Wow.
It's still there. It's in a mosque today. The longest part of this list of 24 families. And look, it says Tzfat, you see? Tzfat. Tzadik Pei Taf. About 1,500 years old. So one of my dreams, which won't come out, Madame knows for years, that I want to go there. and
Who
bring
says it
back.
won't? Who says it won't come out?
Halavai.
Yeah, maybe the. photos
Madal's
will
father
change.
used to tell me stories about Timan, about places that he used to go to. Shva, the kingdom of Shva. Malkat Shva is a Yemenite. She wasn't, she's probably from Yemen, Shva. So Tzfat is from here. And if you go to the Yemenite shul in back of our house, you go down the steps to where the old shul used to be, the Miklat, you'll see this there on the wall.
This picture.
Okay. If you ask me, I think this should be on the wall of the mayor of Tzfat.
Right.
The mayors of Tzfat, until now, weren't so interested in the history of Tzfat. I'm sorry to say. Okay? Ilan Shochat, a little bit interested. I hope the new mayor of Tzfat will be more interested. He could be. We could be surprised. Okay? Because maybe he's more interested to the history of the rabbis of Tzfat, but also the history of Tzfat, like this. If I was a mayor of Tzfat, I'd put this. If I was a mayor of Tzfat, I'd take this away to there.
Right.
But no, I don't know. I don't think you should. Okay, Zeo, in the meantime.
We have some questions?
Wow.
Okay.
Because I have a question. You want to go first? Okay. So I'm wondering, this is a general question about archaeology. It seems like any place that somebody would want to excavate, they would hit some kind of atika, right? Like how do?
Okay, that's why.
So what's the policy? Do we
Good question.
put in the parking lot and we pave over?
First of all, the state of Israel has a policy. It also has a law of antiquities. The law of antiquities so far says an antiquity is only from 1700 and back. Unless it's connected to something new, but it's connected to an antiquity, so it's part of the antiquity. Okay, that's number one. We have a big law of antiquities, and all of Tzfat, all of this part of Tzfat, okay, I declare it as an antiquity site, including, of course, the cemetery we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay, but not here. Okay, unless we have the certain little antiquity sites here, or the Ramat Razim, the 30 antiquity sites that we declared, but only small ones. Okay, and even if they build up the neighborhood, we'll do excavating and we'll let them build. We're not going to let anybody build here, right? And okay, so our policy is, in other words, you're asking, how do we know where the antiquity sites are?
And what do we do when we find them and we want to
Can
build a
anybody
building?
guess? Can Smadar, not you, but anybody else? How many antiquity sites are in Israel today declared? How many antiquity sites are in this huge computer program we have in the Israel Antiquities Authority? How many? Okay, I asked the teachers sometimes, if seminar of the teachers, with their students, okay? What do you think the student will say? And how will a teacher correct it? The student will say, oh, maybe we have 100 sites. And the teacher, no, there are at least 500. How many do we have declared in our computer program? And this is without Yehuda v'Shomron. Yehuda v'Shomron is separate. 40,000. Okay? So even this area, so even I surveyed and we discovered about 500 new antiquity sites that weren't before in my surveys.
Wow.
But not every antiquity site is Tzfat.
All right.
And even Tzfat is divided up into 4 or 5 antiquity sites. It's not easy to declare, and you have to run a map. It's not easy. So there are so many antiquity sites, but you have Tzfat.
And then what can you do with it? Can you build on that site, near that site?
So it
What do
all
you do?
depends. If it's a developing city, so they do small excavations, and they usually, after recording everything that's there, they say build on it. But if it's the Metzuda of Tzfat, we're not going to let them build it all. Don't even think of planning. Okay, Tzfat is quiet. Tveria, this Madame knows how much I used to work in Tveria. It wasn't easy. Okay, but when you go to Tveria along the shoreline, you see all the shorelines. You see with the what do you call it? The swimming pools
Right.
and everything. That's the people of Tveria took over all the shoreline except one. And that for years I fought over a 200 meter stretch where Be'er Miriam is, the well of Miriam.
Where is that exactly?
That's a whole lecture.
Is that where we do that?
I don't know.
So
Where is it there?
there it's a big problem working in Tveria. Because first of all, they're Tveriani. They're very, it's hot in Tveria. And that's the way the people are there also. My grandmother was like that also. She was born in Tveria. Very hot people, like the temperature.
Yeah.
Here in Tzfat, we're cooler. Like my grandfather was cool. And certainly the temperature has to do with it. In Tveria,
They've written doctoral
it's
theses
also
on
a big, huge antiquity site. It's a Roman theater and a Roman cardo and a whole Roman city. We don't have that.
Right.
So in Tveria, it's much, much more intense. Okay, Roman theater, I discovered Roman theater. But in Tveria, they don't care about it.
They don't care
It's
about the
bigger, it's
non-Jewish?
bigger than Saraya.
They don't care about the non-Jewish sites? That you're
About
saying?
the?
The non-Jewish sites, they don't care about that so much?
Who? We?
No,
Tiberians.
the Tiberians, they don't.
For the state of Israel law of antiquity, it doesn't differentiate.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Of course not. It can't differentiate between a Jewish or Muslim or Christian site. Of course, most of the sites are this and this and this to get Tzfat. All of them,
Tiberians
open
must
the
be
history.
famous also.
But the state of Israel, the democratic state of Israel, does not differentiate the law of antiquities between the belonging of the site to. Of course, we have mosques in Tzfat, we have mosques in Tveria.
Yeah.
Okay, and everything we have a Sitzikina in Tveria, which was turned into Kever Rachel Ishto shel Rabbi Akiva. Okay, the wife of Rabbi Akiva.
Is that accurate, that?
Okay.
I just wondered, because I've been there times and it's a very strange.
Both Sitzikina, she's not there.
What's Yitzhak?
She's a granddaughter of Muhammad, great granddaughter of Muhammad.
Whoa.
Okay, she's not there. She has about 5 sites herself. She's in Medina. But Rachel, the wife of Rabbi Akiva, can't be there because that site is in the middle of the ancient city of the Roman times. And the Jews didn't bury within the city.
No.
So,
So
okay.
here
But
we
I'll tell you, there are other things that are problematic, like the Ramchal.
Really?
That's something. We'll talk about this some other time.
How about the place where they have the emote, the Zilpa and?
Oh, yeah.
Kevra Imahot.
That must be bogus, right?
Kevra Imahot. That tradition is hundreds of years old. I don't know if there's archaeology under the Tziyun. Okay, I wrote a whole article with the Beit Knesset Noam, and we put my young daughter next to the Kevra Imahot, a picture of her. She was this one, now she's 24. And Kevra Imahot is an ancient tradition, like Be'er Miriam is an ancient tradition, but in the Gemara, the Be'er is the middle of the Kinneret.
Right.
But the Ari said that it's on shore.
Oh.
Okay. So the Kivret, the whole system of Kivret Tzadikim is not one bunch. Okay, we have Kivret Tzadikim in Lebanon. Okay, in these past 2 months, okay, I scanned 250 of my pictures from Lebanon. I was the archaeological officer of Lebanon in 1982.
Wow.
And I guided tours in Lebanon.
Wow.
And one tour, Smadar was with us.
Wow.
We got to them before. And there were Kivrei Tzadikim in Lebanon. We took out a Sefer Torah from Lebanon, from Sidon. We took out the Levi family. For Parshat HaShavua, we read about Betzalel ben Uri and Oliah ben Hisamach. They're both in Lebanon. I was the first one to get there.
Wow.
Okay, to get there, and I have pictures of that. And I scanned them all into my computer this past month. And I made 3 PowerPoint presentations, and one of them I showed at the English library 2 weeks ago. Yehudit was there. And I used to show those as slides in the 1980s and 90s, and then nobody got interested in Lebanon anymore. Okay, and I stopped. So I scanned all the slides into my computer, and they're there. And Bezrat Hashem, we won't go into Lebanon anymore. Okay, the tzaddikim are there. They're watching over themselves. There are no Jews in Lebanon, I think, anymore.
Ezrat Hashem, that'll be northern Israel. What do you mean?
Light, which is dead.
Yeah.
Where is the northern boundary of Israel?
Yeah, in Euphrates, right?
Okay, I have a suggestion. Where is Horahar? You know Horahar, the Mount of Mountains. The Mount of Mountains in Parshat Mas'eh. In 2 months from now or so, Parshat Mas'eh, we'll be reading on the boundaries of Eretz Israel. The northern boundary is Horahar. There are two Horahars. One Horahar is where Aharon is buried. We go there in Jordan, above Petra. I've been there also. And there's the Horahar in the north. The northern border of northern boundary is Horahar.
Where is that in Lebanon? Sorry.
That's I have a suggestion. Okay, some say it's up there near Turkey, near the border of Syria and Turkey, north of Lebanon.
Wow.
But I have a new suggestion. I'm going to try. I haven't written on that yet, but I'm going to say, but I'm going to have to argue with great scholars. We'll see what they say. They can say, no, you're wrong, Yossi. I'll also be going against most of the Mefarshim of Beit Sheni times, but we're talking about Beit Rishon. I'm trying to understand the pshat of the geography of Beit Rishon. And I have another suggestion, which is in Lebanon, but not so far from here. And if you go up a little bit, you'll be into now to Rosh Pina, you can see it. It's full of snow. It's the twin mountain of Jizim, which can be seen. It's like a peak next to a peak. Okay, when we went to my son in the Chula Valley, we saw it. We saw it was just beginning to snow 2 months ago. So
it's near Hermon. It's near the Hermon. It's near the Hermon.
No, first of all, the Hermon, we only see the southern part of it. Hermon goes to the northeast. It goes into the range of the anti-Lebanon range, which could be probably Amanah. Amanah, Rosh Amanah, the Amanah range. But Amanah could also be this Horahar that I'm suggesting, but I'm going against a lot of people. I'm looking for the pshat of what Horahar could be. And we'll see how it comes out. So there's no, Naphtali doesn't have a border. In the description of Nachalat Naphtali, in Yoshua Yud Aleph, there's no exact description of the northern border of Naphtali, which is the northern border of Eretz Israel then, where they settled down. I think it's the Litani River. We hear about in the road. We hear about, in the news all the Litani River. Okay, I've been to the Litani River. Litani River is a huge, it's a very deep gorge. Okay, the river itself is like the Jordan. It's not a Mississippi. It's like the Jordan River, but the gorge is very deep, and it is the natural border. But when we say we want to push the Hezbollah back to the Litani River, that doesn't help because the Litani River from Metula is 3 kilometers away. Look at the map. From here, it's far away. But when you go up to the Chula, you go to the Metula, you can almost see, you can't see, but it's behind the range, 3 kilometers away. So that's also a problem. But I don't know how we're going to solve that problem. Okay.
One more question and then we're done.
No, I just was wondering why you said that the school, the medical school, they originally were going to build it up there. Did they not
Down
build
there.
Down. No, when they were going to build it up, you said by
Ramat Razim.
Yeah.
That's down.
Oh, okay, I think it was the up Jeff above the canine to get over there.
Up to Canal, right?
Did they not do it because of what they discovered up there, or was it for their other political reasons?
Ask me, it's too much money.
Oh, it's too much money to.
I think so.
Because the roads and the whole.
I have to ask Noam Shul. Okay, he's a director of the faculty. I think it was too much money to build there. Maybe the mayor of Tzfat, maybe Ilan Shochat, convinced Bibi and others to have it here to help us, to help. They,
build.
and when Bibi came to inaugurate it, I told Ilan Shocha to tell Bibi that we had a faculty already of medicine 500 years ago. Because in the cemetery, we were just discovering some doctors that are buried there 500 years ago.
Wow.
That's what I always like to say. But there wasn't. There wasn't a medical school in Tzfat. The doctors here in Tzfat studied probably in Padova, Italy, or in Cairo. You know, the doctors of Tzfat, 60, 70, 80 years, where did they study medicine? In Beirut, American University in Beirut. Okay.
Wow, so much. That is.